Broadway. Listen to the Broadway beat. Broadway makes you wanna move your feet. Everybody's tapping into everything that's happening on Broadway beats. Broadway beats. Broadway beats. Broadway beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge. Welcome to Broadway Beat. This week's guest was born Bernadette Lazara and raised in Ozone Park, Queens. By age 5, she was a regular singing on the Horn and Hardart television program. When it came time to choose a stage name, she took her father's first name, thus becoming Bernadette Peters. She made her Broadway debut appearing opposite Joel Grey in the musical George M. But it was the small off-Broadway musical Dames at Sea and her portrayal of Ruby that established her as an up-and-coming star. On Broadway, she appeared as Hildy in the Ron Field revival of On the Town and as Mabel Normand in the legendary Jerry Herman musical Mack and Mabel. Her association with Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine began with her portrayal of Dot in Sunday in the Park with George and continued through Into the Woods, in which she appeared as the most beguiling witch. For her tour de force performance in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Song and Dance, she won a Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical. Through her work in film, theater, television, and the concert stage, Miss Peters has won the adoration of millions of fans and the respect and love of her colleagues. So it is with great delight that we welcome to Broadway Beat, Miss Bernadette Peters. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have been someone I have wanted to sit with for the longest time, especially since last December 9th.
That's right, when we did the Carnegie Hall show and you taped it for me.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, not all of it. You're not allowed to tape the whole thing.
But it was good. They were great snippets, weren't they?
Fabulous. Just I'm so grateful to have that. And then you take my family.
Your family's great, and your dad. Let's go back for a second. You're such a busy person because we tried last week to get you a few times. And I mean, I was just surprised how busy you are and how your schedule turns on a dime.
Well, you know, what happens is, sometimes it does, sometimes it, certainly if I'm in a show, you know where I'm going to be all the time, because I'm there 8 times a week. But right now, from summer on, I've been just like going all over the place, and I did Cinderella, that was on, just recently on, this summer, and then all of a sudden I went and I was called to be with Leanne Rimes, to do something in Dallas where I played a country western singer. Then I got back home ready to jump into the Woods, and I got a phone call saying, come to LA and we're honoring Quincy Jones. So I came and so that's where I was last week when you tried to get me. I was in LA. I just got back Sunday night, and Monday I started rehearsals for Into the Woods.
Now, Sunday night, over 60 million viewers watched you as the evil stepmother in Cinderella. How does that make you feel?
That things are going well. Well, and someone said today, if you think about it, half of men, and the largest amount of people were in New York that watched, and half of Manhattan, half of New York, I should say, was watching the Cinderella. It was a very good show. It was very enjoyable.
So what was it like making that? Because you had done a few of these before. I know you've done George M. on television.
Yes, that's right.
And Once Upon a Mattress.
Mm-hmm.
So what was is it different now, the way they make them?
Let me think. Compare. Well, I'm an adult now. That's different. I had a ball. No, I guess they do them kind of the same way. I mean, those were on tape.
Okay.
And I believe this was on film. That was the difference, first of all. And this was on film. And I had a ball. I just had a ball. I had a wonderful role to play the wicked stepmother, and I could just do whatever I felt like. And it was a fairy tale, so you can do whatever you want. And no holds barred, so it was a ball.
Fun being evil?
Fun being evil, but being outrageous, that you can like just do something odd and you could burp if you wanted to, you know, and it would be acceptable and something like that, because she's like quirky, odd, and and has her things, and also just very jealous of Cinderella. You know, wants what she wants. And
You know, for those viewers of ours who don't know, you were born and raised in Ozone Park, Queens. And was it your mom that started you out in the business?
yes, I would say so. I was 3 and a half when she said I sang in front of the television set, which I probably did because I love music and I love to sing. And my sister, who's a casting agent in New York, Donna just said, she went to high school of performing arts, and so she was kind of involved in it first, and then we just got involved in it.
So at 5, you were a regular on, is it the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour?
Yes, yeah.
What are your recollections? Did you really realize it was TV, or was it all a hobby for you early on?
No, for me, when I was about 5 when I was on those shows, for me, at that age, I was really playing. I was fantasizing. I was singing and fantasizing. And I remember there was a big thing in front of me. It was the camera, but I didn't realize really what it was because it was all live then. It wasn't tape. I didn't see myself back later. It was totally live. So anything from those days are on a kinescope. And then when I was going through school, grade school, up till 13, I really did think of it as a hobby. I was getting my chops, my stage chops, so to speak, and my performing chops. But it was really, and luckily so, I wasn't a child star that had to overcome it then later on.
But at 13, you toured as Dainty June. Was it for 8 months in Gypsy?
I toured as the understudy
Okay.
for Dainty June, and I was actually played one of the Hollywood blondes. And yeah, it was 8 months. It was 8 months.
So what was it like for a 13-year-old to experience?
I was very lonely. I didn't like being on the road. I didn't like being away from home. The first 3 months we were in Las Vegas. And that really was not a place for a 13-year-old because you can't do anything in that town unless you're 21. I couldn't gamble. I couldn't do what other people did. So even up till I've only now gotten used to the idea that travel could be nice because being on the road at 13, it wasn't a pleasant experience for me. It was just like and it was the second company, the second national tour. So it wasn't like one-nighters, but it was a week in a place and a week in a place. If I was an adult, it probably could have been a ball, you know. And I remember all the people in the cast. I remember they were sweet people, and I adored them.
You met Martin Laird, your musical director, somewhere along that tour, didn't you?
Marvin Laird, I met, yes, he started the tour. He wasn't on the road with us, unfortunately. The tour started in Lambertville, New Jersey. And Marvin was the pianist on it, and in rehearsal too. And then he was a young man also, and he went off to do something else. But I worked with Marvin when I was 13 in that show. Yeah.
It's great how your life comes full circle, where these people stay in your life.
Don't you feel that happens to you in
Yeah.
life too? That does come full circle, and you come back to the same people somehow that they're supposed to be in your life?
Yeah.
It's kind of wonderful, isn't it?
It is. It's reassuring, especially in this business.
It is, and it's something for everyone to look forward to. You know, for someone that's been around for a while, you can tell someone young coming up that your life does come around to the people again, full circle.
Now, you decided to do this professionally for a lifelong career at 17?
Well, when I was 17, I started studying acting, and I loved it because when you're a teenager, you have all these emotions and no place to put them. So it was a great creative outlet to go and study acting and let all these emotions come out. And also I studied with a great acting teacher was David LeGrand, and he's a wonderful teacher. He's in Los Angeles now. And my singing coach was James Gregory, who also I give a lot of credit to. At that time, just helping me let those emotions out and using them and just enjoying it and loving it. So I would say about then, yeah, I got the taste that this is something pretty wonderful to do.
Okay. Now, your first big Broadway musical was George M.
But before that, I did an off-Broadway show like I was around 18 when I started using all these things that I was feeling and tapping into that my manager produced, Tom Hammond, and that was called The Penny Friend. And I came in and replaced somebody in 48 hours, which you can do when you're a child. Now you kind of go, how am I going to learn the whole book and the music? Which I just learned the music one night and the book the next night, and that was it. And that was kind of, and Steve Sondheim came to see that show because his very dear friend was a set designer.
It was an Oliver-type musical, right?
It was based on James M. Barrie story, A Kiss for Cinderella. Here's Cinderella again. and he wrote Peter Pan, as you know, and it was that kind of waif type person, and Billy Roy wrote the music and the lyrics, and it was great music, really different at that time. And
then Curly McDimple came after that?
Yeah, and then, now what came first, Georgette or Curly McDimple? Curly McDimple, maybe, yeah, came after that. And then Georgette, which was my first Broadway show.
So what are your memories of working with Joel Grey and Joe Layton?
Oh, God. Joel Grey, I remember connecting with him one day. We were both looking out the window during a 5-minute break. And I just remember thinking what a great guy he was. And we just had a little chat. And I think he was telling me about something just very lovely that he was experiencing, or something like that. And our connection has stayed through all these years. He, when my album came out and I was getting married last year, he gave a party at his house, and that was pretty wonderful.
And working with Joe Layton?
He was scary in those days. He was really, because he worked hard, and he was trying to make this show work, and he was directing and choreographing. And I mean, he had his lovely side too. And when he wasn't working, he was this wonderful, wonderful person. Years later, when I became an adult and I wasn't, just a kid working for him, he was one of those tough guys back in those days, as they had the reputation to be. I think nowadays there's not as many. I don't believe. It seems to me.
There's very few that do director-choreographer. I mean, you had Bob Fosse, Michael Bennett, Joe Layton, Ron Field,
Gower Champion,
and Tommy Tune.
That's right. And they may be starting again. If Susan Stroman starts to direct, and Bob Marshall starts to do that, and Graciela. We may start up again.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because they had a distinct vision for both ends of the directing and choreography. I think it's very important. Well, Dames at Sea was after that. Now, Dames at Sea was the kind of show that gave a big boost to your career and actually put you on the map. But it almost didn't happen for you, did it?
Oh, that's an interesting story. I did Dames at Sea in a coffee house called the Chino, which is now a restaurant on Cornelia Street called Poe, which I haven't gone there yet. I have to go, but I passed by one day and I went, oh my God, this is where Cafe Chino was. I'm looking in the window. They must have thought I was crazy, just picturing where everything was. Because in those days when I went down there, it was like I couldn't find it, and it was like had a one of those fences, that accordion fences that closed, And it was a coffee house, and the floor was painted psychedelic. But we did Dames at Sea there I did it for about 3 weeks. Then I went off to do some other work. I forgot exactly what I went off to do. And then when it came time to do it off-Broadway, legitimate off-Broadway, I was offered a Broadway show, A Mother's Kisses, which was a lot of fun. The role was a lot of fun, and it was very different, and Bruce J. Freeman wrote it, and you can imagine what kind of, she had a brain tumor, and she would curse, she had like Tourette's, syndrome, and so it was a fun role to do, so I said, thank you very much, I'm not going to be able to do the show, I'm going to do this Broadway show. And so they were disappointed, but blah, blah, blah. So then I did, I was in rehearsal for 4 weeks with A Mother's Kisses, and about the last week they kept like cutting my number shorter and shorter and shorter, and finally it was just like 8 bars, and they were trying to, it was the only thing in the show that didn't go with the rest of the show, and you didn't really need it. And they were trying to save it, but in a way, they had so many things they had to. So anyway, I got a phone call the day before I was leaving town to go with them, and it was Leonard Soloway who reminded me that he had to give me the news that I was fired, that the role was written out of the show, and that was it. So I called the Dames at Sea people, probably, I forgot who I spoke to, maybe it was the director, I don't remember who. And I said, I'm available. They said, well, that's very nice, but we already cast Sandy Duncan. I said, oh, okay, all right, well, that's great that I've been told sometimes I've had a job and then I've had it taken away from me, so they've gone with her. I said, oh, all right. Then Sandy Duncan gets Canterbury Tales. She gets a Broadway show. She gets Canterbury Tales and goes off and does that. And they called me back and they said the role's available. I said, okay. This was something that was supposed to happen, I guess.
So what are your memories about the Bowery Lane Theater? The Bowery was a tough place then, wasn't it?
The Bowery, yeah. The Bowery was the only place that the homeless lived. And they weren't called homeless, they were called drunks. You know, it wasn't really homeless. We didn't really have quite that problem, I don't think. Well, we didn't. It wasn't the same thing. And they're bums. And they would drink and they'd live down there, you know. And they would come when we drove, because I remember when my father would, like, once in a while drive me in from Queens, they'd come up to the windshield and wipe the windshield and he'd give them money. And they kind of started to get to know us in the neighborhood. Started, like, when we were there rehearsing. You better catch up to your friends, you know, they're kind of taking care of us in a way. I remember one night one of those guys came in and bought a ticket with a $100 bill and sat like in the second row and was laughing and laughing and laughing, and then left before the show was finished and told the girl in the box office it was too funny. I had to leave. I was laughing too hard. It was just, he probably needed a drink is what he needed. Too funny. But he was laughing, having a great time. I loved that theater for the show because it was long like a bowling alley, and the stage was an itty bitty stage on the end of the at the end of the aisle, one aisle down the middle. And it was so great for the show because we had a little proscenium arch around it that it was supposed to look like a tacky little show, but for the production numbers, the Busby Berkeley big production numbers, the proscenium arch would open, which would be like a foot. It would go, you know, like that. And it was just great for the show. Just great for the show.
Well, after Dames at Sea, the Broadway offers started to come in, and you chose a little-known musical, which was called La Strada, which was Lionel Bart's musical based on the classic Fellini film. That's a really dark story.
It was a dark story, but I was very right for the role, if you think about it. And Lionel Bart had written the music, so you go, oh, this is great, Lionel Bart. But the thing, what it was, is Lionel Bart never came over.
Yeah.
And because Lionel Bart had a substance abuse problem and never really could then work on the show. And in a way, Alan Schneider, who was the director, who's no longer with us, he kind of had to help write the script had to be really worked on, and it was a lot of work to undertake. And it taught me a lot of lessons, that it should be on the page before you start rehearsal. It should be there, not to just throw it up in the air and hope it's going to happen. But Marty Trinan came in and wrote new music, and we opened at the Lunt Fontaine, and I used the same bathroom that I remember for Hamlet it was Richard Burton used, and I thought this is exciting. But I was only there one night. I only ran one night.
No, because interesting, you having jumped ship, a lot of people start with these shows and they realize if they're not working, they jump ship.
Yeah.
But you learn so much when you do something that really doesn't work. There are so many lessons you take away from that because you still believe it while you're doing it.
Well, yes, and you have to. I mean, I don't know now if I knew, I tend to feel responsibility to the cast to stay there and try to make it work if I've accepted it to begin with. But I try now to make sure that it's there before I accept.
Well, you appeared in the highly anticipated revival of Leonard Bernstein's On the Town, which I saw at the Imperial Theater and thought was absolutely terrific.
Oh, thanks.
I think it's one of the most beautiful show posters ever designed by David Byrd.
Yes.
Now, you had the opportunity of working with Ron Field on that.
Yes, yeah.
And then would eventually put your nightclub back together. What are your memories of doing On the Town?
Well, I loved it because it was a different role for me. I was playing a tough cookie, whereas before I would play the sweet ingenue. And I had a great song. I can cook too. And 40s and fun, and it was just, it was Phyllis Newman, and who's a doll, and it was an Adolph, Betty, and all those wonderful people, Leonard Bernstein. And it was nice to do, and the music is so beautiful in that show. I mean,
because you've included two of those songs on your last CD.
Yeah.
I'll Be Your Baby Tonight.
Yeah.
So I know that score has a soft spot in your heart.
I love the score. I just love it. Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it was a show that I loved, but I think a lot of people, maybe they were still used to the Jerome Robbins look of the show. I know that Ron had changed a little bit with putting a 40s spin on it. And maybe it was too early for a, quote, director choreographer to sort of change a look of something that someone had already put their stamp on.
I don't know why it didn't work. I mean, that's a good reason. It was very 40s. It wasn't just, it was like saying also we're having fun with this. Maybe it was too soon to do that.
The Coney Island segment was great at the end.
Yeah.
With the fireworks and everything else.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those shows that stays.
I'm glad that you have nice memories of it.
I really love that show.
Did you see it when it was in the park
Yeah.
there again? I missed that. I wanted to see it.
Very exciting.
I would think because they had the bridge and everything in it, and very New York in the background. It's perfect to do it in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after On the Town, did you give Hollywood a shot? Was it after that?
Yes, it was.
Why did you decide to do it then?
Because it was, that's the other reason maybe why On the Town didn't work as well as it should have. New York was really starting to dip. You know, it was going into its low ebb. And just as far as being dirty and being dangerous and it not being cared for the way that, you know, it's good now again. And also, when they did the television special of Dames at Sea, I wasn't considered because no one knew who I was for television. And I thought to myself, well, I have to change that. I have to go out to LA and do a series and get myself on television so I can have more choices of what I want to do.
Scary move for you to do?
No, because I had gone back and forth a lot. I had traveled to LA and done a lot of things, and I always loved it there when I went there. And I stayed at the Beverly Hills Hotel and all that, the best of it. So it wasn't scary, no. No.
Now, Carol Burnett played a major part in your life during that time period also.
Yes.
How?
Well, after La Strada, it was a bomb one night, and so now I wasn't, you know, the new hot girl on the block anymore, and I wasn't really getting as much work anymore. But she always believed in me and just kept using me on her show for those year and 2 years after that.
Do you miss musical variety on television? Do you miss that genre now?
I do, and I wonder if it's going. I was thinking about that just the other day, and I bet it'll come back also eventually, because you know, we get tired of things, and then we say, what would we like to see now? What are we missing? And I bet that's something that would do very well again.
Because do you think that Broadway can make stars the way they did with you and people before you now?
Well, they made stars back then, but they still were limited stars. They were only Broadway stars, and people that came to Broadway were the only ones that saw them, because they didn't have the videos, and you know, unless they went on the road on tour to get people out in the country, to get, you know, in the rest of the country, I mean, to get to know them. So I think there's opportunity, yeah, because now look at Christine Baranski. She started on Broadway, now she's on, you know, on television, on Sybil. So, and Nathan. So I do think that you can, yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's even more of an opportunity.
It's very reassuring because, you know, when I was researching you, I thought, you know, with the whole musical variety, during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there were like 5 or 6 musical variety shows on a week. And most Broadway stars or Broadway performers went out to California and put these big numbers together by Broadway choreographers and sort of made a name for themselves in the hinterland if they weren't touring through these shows. I mean, you think of a lot of these people like Jane Morgan, who replaced Angela Lansbury in Mame, was on all these shows. That's really where she made a name for herself. You know, so that's why I brought that up. I was thinking,
Oh,
like,
I
you know,
see what you're saying, yeah.
You know, you had the opportunity of doing it with Carol Burnett. And I read somewhere that, you know, Ron Field had cast you as Hildy from watching you do a 40s spoof on Carol Burnett, and that Mel Brooks had cast you in Silent Movie from watching you on Carol Burnett also.
Did he cast me from that? I didn't
Well, I read a piece saying that, so I just thought that was really wonderful.
Yes,
That was able to happen.
Yes, yes, I see what you're saying. Well, I guess now there's shows like the Rosie O'Donnell show, things like that. There are places, just maybe there's no variety show. That's the only other thing.
But it's interesting, like you said, it probably will come back, because the pendulum does swing back.
I bet, yeah, I bet.
And now, in Pig Latin. Here we in the army bed. Here we
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to join us next week as we continue our visit with Miss Bernadette Peters. Until then, this is Richard Ridge reminding you, you haven't really lived until you've seen it live. Good night.
Are there any other women in the house?
Oh, why, yes. There's one more. Move over.
I mean, are there any other young women in the house?
How young?
Younger than you. Impossible.
And it's cutting off my circulation. Get it off me. Off. Pull it harder, you imbecile, harder.
Madam, there's no need for name calling. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2.
I was unwise with eyes unable to see. I fell in love with love everlasting. But love vanished with me. Falling in love with love is like a make-believe. Falling in love with love is playing the fool. Caring too much is such a juvenile fancy. Learning to trust is just for children in school. I fell in love with love one night when the moon was full. I was unwise with eyes unable to see. I fell in love with love everlasting. But love vanished with me. Broadway beat, Broadway beat, Broadway beat, Broadway beat, Broadway, listen to the Broadway beat, Broadway makes you wanna move your feet. Everybody's tapping into everything that's happening on Broadway beats, Broadway beats, Broadway beats, Broadway beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge. Welcome to Broadway Beat. This week we conclude our visit with one of Broadway's brightest stars, the inimitable Bernadette Peters.
Some Tuesday, Thursday, April, August, autumn, winter, next year, some year, time heals everything.
Now, Jerry Herman's musical Mac and Mabel is a show that brought you back to New York.
Yes.
How did that happen for you?
Well, I had just moved down to LA, and I was coming to New York to do some game shows. I was doing game shows, and they said, "Oh, you're in New York. We want you to meet with Gower Champion from Mac and Mabel." And I went, "Well, okay." So I went and I met with him, and blah blah blah. And Jerry Herman called me. No, it wasn't Jerry. It was Mike Stewart. Called me at the hotel. "How long are you going to be here for?" And I said, "Well, I'm still here. I have to do some more things the rest of the day." "All right, well, don't leave. We're going to talk, blah, blah, blah. I want to make sure that I talk to you." And I don't know what was going on. And he would keep calling me every once in a while, but I kept with my plane. I did my game shows, and I was going to the airport to leave to go back to Los Angeles. And I'm on the plane, and they make an announcement. I'm sorry, everyone has to deplane because something is wrong with the engines, and we want you to deplane, and then we'll figure it out. And so I got off the plane, and I called my manager, Tom Hammond, in L.A., and I said, well, I'm not going to be on the flight that you thought I was going to be on. I'm going to be on a later flight, and I'm delayed. And they said, oh, this is amazing because I have David Mack's office on the other line. I said, really? He said, yeah, they want you to do Mack and Mabel. So I said, you mean, so don't get on the plane? No, don't get on the plane. They want you to do it. I said, well, you think I should? Yeah, I think you should do it. I think it would be. So there I was, another one of those things that kind of just had to be. It was meant to be, and I didn't get on the plane. The plane was delayed, and I stayed in New York, and didn't have any clothes for rehearsal because I was only there for like a week, and I just went into it, and that was it.
Now, you worked with the wonderful Robert Preston. In that. What are your memories of him?
Oh, just that he loved being in show business. He said, aren't we lucky that we get paid for this? We get to do this. And he loved being an actor, and the way that he would prepare for the role of Mack Sennett, he'd put on his hat and just, before half hour, and just walk around the dark theater and just get his bearings and get the feeling of the man. And he was a real actor, a real Broadway performer.
How much time do you like? Does it depend on the role you're doing?
How much time before?
How much time you want before to get into your character or play all done up or whatever you want to do?
Yeah, it does depend on the role, and I remember Song and Dance, I used to get there at 5 o'clock and just go over the music, think about it, and go over it to figure out what's going on today. How do I feel today about the songs I have to sing today? Where could I go to make them new and alive and fresh for that evening? I like to get there pretty early. I don't like to, unless it's a role that I somehow just want to find myself out there for some reason, but usually I like to get there early.
We'll talk about Song and Dance. That's a show you won your Tony Award for, Best Actress in a Musical. A very unconventional show, if there ever was one.
Yeah.
A lot of challenges for you. What were they?
Well, first of all, I accepted the role because it was a challenge, and when they explained to me what it was, that the whole first act, it was done in London, and the whole first act was done by one character, and I kept thinking they were getting it wrong. Now, wait a minute, the whole first act is one character. Yes, that's right. There's nobody else on stage. No, just one character. And I thought, well, I have to do this. This is quite a challenge. And so I just took it on, just took it on.
Because your character takes this emotional run from A to Z during this show, and you had to create people you had to sing to and feel about that. Wow, that is a really big challenge to deal with.
And it grew and grew and grew as within the year that I was doing it. It just kept getting deeper and coming alive, and I was learning things about myself, how I was feeling about certain things, and I was tired at the end of the show, like the matinee after, and then I'd be drained and then I'd be fine again for the evening.
So it was a hard show vocally to do, or energy-wise?
Both. Yeah. Both. And vocally what I would do is I learned to sing that year because every day I'd go to my singing teacher, Adrienne Angel, and she'd put realign my voice and put it back in alignment, and she gave me a great gift that year. She taught me really how to sing.
Well, you began your collaboration and association with Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine on Sunday in the Park with George. Now, I read that you accepted the role after hearing just one song and a few pages of dialogue.
Yes, I thought, it was a workshop first, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I could be in I never thought I'd work with Steve Sondheim. Isn't that funny? And here I am. And I just thought that we just were people that would be like this. And as far as his work and everything. And then when I was offered this, I thought, oh, this is great. Let me go and do this. And I would talk to James on the phone. I loved him on the phone. And I said, now who's going to play George? Because in my mind, he said Mandy Patinkin. And I went, that's who I had in my mind to play the role of George. So, and there you have it. So that's how it started.
But I was able to see the show at Playwrights. I think I saw the third performance.
Really?
When it was still the one act.
Yeah.
And then I saw it again when it moved to Broadway, and it was a totally different show. Not that the second act was missing, but just your character was seen totally different at Playwrights than the way you evolved on Broadway. Now, you had a major part to do in the development of your character of Dot, didn't you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's, you know, I just said, well, if I'm going to stay with the show and go on, and there has to be more to her. And if he's strong, then a woman that would stay with a guy like this would be strong too. Or that was my approach to it. And what Steve did with it was so interesting is in Finishing the Hat that Mandy sang, Steve realized she was too strong to stay with him. That he got her to leave because she knew exactly who the artist was, that he wasn't going to be there for her. He wasn't going to be able to give her a life where her life would all be turned over to him, and she realized she had a child with him. He wasn't going to be there for them. So he made her even more interesting, much, very interesting.
The song Move On, do you remember the first time you heard it and how you felt?
Well, when I heard Move On and when we would do it, I said, oh, Move On, that's nice, that's great, nice, move on, get on, move on. And then, as I would do it, night after night, I finally realized what meaning it had and what, it was, to me, I couldn't wait to get to that song at the end of the show because it was like meditating. It was so uplifting. The notes and what it was saying was so uplifting.
Well, it must have been wonderful to revisit Sunday in the Park with George when you did the 10th anniversary concert.
Yeah, it was. It was great.
Look at what you want, not at where you are, not at what you'll be. Look at all the things you've done for me. Open up my eyes, taught me how to see, notice every tree, understand the light, concentrate.
I want to move on. I want to explore the light. I want to know how to get through to something new, something of my own. Move on, move on. Don't worry if your vision is new. Let others make that decision they usually do. You keep moving on.
There are many performers who sing the songs of Stephen Sondheim, but there are legions of fans out there who think that you were the finest interpreter of his music, and that includes Arthur Lawrence and myself. You almost seem like soulmates. What do you admire the most about Stephen Sondheim's music and lyrics and the man himself?
I just so appreciate that he was born and that I got to live through some of his songs, sing them and experience them. I just appreciate them. I love doing some of the ones, of course, I do in my concert. I do Steve's music, and there's a song that I just always love doing, like No One Is Alone, which has such a lovely message, and that's an uplifting song. He just knows, he just gets to where you're supposed to be, what he wants to say. He just gets to what he wants to say, and just very succinct, and gets to it, and he writes the music and the lyrics, so it's a beautiful marriage. And I never get tired of singing his music, and I'm always learning something. It means one thing one night, and the next night I sing the song, and there's another layer that peels away, and it means something else. It constantly keeps my mind going.
Well, you returned to them with Into the Woods as the Witch. And I read, I think it was in Show Music magazine, that you decided to sign on to this right away because, quote, you would learn about life again.
Exactly.
I thought that was a great statement.
Yeah. I learned so much in Sunday in the Park, and I thought, oh, another opportunity to do a Lapine Sondheim show, and they're a great team. I think they were a really fabulous team. And so I thought, well, God, this will be great. I'll learn about life again. It'll be a fulfilling, fabulous experience. And then when I would get to sing in that show, children would listen. It was at the end of the show, again, but still, an amazing song, amazing song.
Guide them along the way. Children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. Careful the wish you make. Wishes are children. Careful the path they take. Wishes come true. Not free.
Well, last December, you made your solo debut at Carnegie Hall.
And you were there.
And we were there. I'll tell you, for an audience, this was one of those top 10 special events, one of those that one sees in a lifetime.
Thank you.
What was it like for you?
It was pretty wonderful. Came out and I had butterflies at one point backstage because I was walking, and then I set myself to come through the curtain, and I was like, just very peaceful. It's like, you know, really feeling. I came through the curtain and just was there to entertain, is that word, but there to be, and the audience was there with me to be and to see what would happen and to experience this little trip that we were all going to go on.
Because I
And
asked,
they were ready for a show, and I was ready for a show.
because I asked you that night if you had any preconceived notions of how you felt, and you said you didn't.
Yeah.
Which I guess you really can't, can you?
No, and I don't think that's a good way to approach it either, do you?
No.
I think that seeing what happens is, you know, leaves the unexpected to happen and surprises. You don't know. You don't know, you know, you think, oh, they're going to be so excited, and if they're not, then you're going to be thinking about, gee, they're not excited when I thought they'd be excited. I mean, you never know. And each night when you go out and you do a show, from doing it so many years, you never know what the audience is going to be like. When I did Dames at Tea in the Coffee House, they were nuts every night. And then I went out into the real world where, you know, they've been working all day, and sometimes they're tired, and they start off tired, or they appreciate it a different way, or it's a hot night, or sort of Friday nights they've eaten, and blah, blah, you know, it's different all the time. So I'm not going to adjust my performance. I'm just going to try to be there, and hopefully they'll be there too.
Because you do concerts a lot. You like touring, don't you?
Well, I like doing concerts.
You come back to that whole thing of last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you like performing on the road and doing concerts.
I like doing concerts because there's no fourth wall. We're all there together, and I get to choose what I want to sing. I don't have to stay in character. I can be whatever I want.
Is that why you like to record?
Is that why I like to record?
That you get to pick your own material, or why do you like to record?
Yeah, I was trying to think why. I mean, yes, I love having, I mean, I love that I have, say, and I really connect to this song, let's do it, you know, and so hopefully some things on the album I'm connected to. And then I love the process of making, you know, even then the mixing, where you sit there and you listen and you say, well, how about this or how about that, and putting this together, and time just flies by. Just, it's like creating, I guess,
Sure.
creating something.
And you have a major part of that.
Well, I mean, you know, the engineer and the musician certainly are, as we're doing it, and I'm in the midst of recording, and it's up to them to get it down so that it's a sound that captures what I'm doing, what I'm feeling. Well, everybody's a part. It's you know, it's everybody's a part of it, but being able to choose material, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah.
You do a lot of work with GMHC. I know that last year's concert was a benefit for theirs, and so was the Anyone Can Whistle concert, which you did. What was that like doing the Anyone Can Whistle?
It was a thrill. That was the first time I was on stage in New York since the Goodbye Girl. So I came out and did the first number, and first I was working on it with Herbert Ross and Madeline Kahn and Arthur Lawrence and Scott Bakula, all those wonderful people. It was, and I was nervous at first because I thought, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to be received, or blah, 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 you know. And then when I did the first number, and it really the audience really loved it and enjoyed it. I was kind of shocked, but also, you know, it felt really great. It was a great role, that role, actually. She has wonderful numbers.
Yeah.
She sings Anyone Can Whistle, and there won't be trumpets, and I mean, I love those songs. I do them now, because I just love the songs so much.
Don't know when, don't know where, and I can't even say that I care. All we know is the minute you turn and he's suddenly there. There won't be drawbacks. There are no drawbacks. Who needs drawbacks?
You know, you talk about The Goodbye Girl. Mm-hmm. You work with Martin Short. Mm-hmm. Did you have a good time doing that show?
I loved Marty. I mean, I loved working with Marty, and he and I really worked well together. And he was somebody that, you know, he's all about making things wonderful and making it enjoyable, and it was a hard show to work on as far as just trying to figure out how it comes together, and everyone was trying to figure out how it's supposed to come together. Except Marty, he just was right from the beginning. As we wrote, you know, he just knew what he was going to do, and the role kind of mostly stayed the same in a way. So I loved working with him on that show. I'm so glad that I got to meet him and work with him.
So let's keep improvising. Trust in the karma, we harmonize. And love can be like this song. Holla, what's happening to Paula? We know summer, just make it up as we go.
How's my tiger doing?
So it was good for you then?
It was wonderful for me. It was fantastic.
Some people find me a bit stiff.
Stiff? Lucky me.
So it doesn't bother you that I'm Episcopalian?
No, my darling, no, my sweet.
How about the fact that I'm a marionette? Not an issue with you at all.
I'm nothing small and funny, just the way you are, my darling.
Do you really? Have you ever seen my impersonation of Arlene Francis?
Oh, no, I'd love to see it.
Are you in show business? I developed a form of palsy. Thank you very much. I'd stamp it out myself, but it's a hell of a reach. Can I ask you a favor?
Well, anything, my sweet.
I met a witch once.
Oh, was she a wicked witch?
Well, she was wicked in the first act. And in the second act, she turned out to be almost as good and beautiful as you are.
Oh, you are so sweet. Was she nominated?
I don't think she was.
Ah, too bad.
I mean, you're such a busy person. I mean,
right now.
But that's great. I mean, it's going to continue. I'm sure it's going to continue. You work so well.
Well, December 8th, I get to rest for till the end of the year. Then I
Oh,
go to
really?
Australia.
You know, so I was going to ask you, you know, I know people who are married in different walks of life, you know, make their marriage work. You have a wonderful marriage, but, you know, your husband's not in show business and you are, and you travel so much. What are the difficulties and challenges?
Well, the great part is that he's an investment advisor, and so he just needs a phone and a computer, so he'll come with me. And so I'm singing in Hawaii, actually, doing some concerts in Hawaii, so we're going to take a few days there, you know, and just be together. But he comes with me all the time anyway.
See, I didn't know, but I'm really glad.
I think that's a secret. I think that's good.
Because we spoke with him that night, and it was just to watch your husband speak about you, because I pulled him out of a corner. You know, he was so shy, but I just wanted to see what it was like during the preparation week for you doing all of this and how he felt. And he was just the proudest man in the world.
He does. He's very proud of me. Yeah.
Well, your latest CD, which of course is the live CD from Carnegie Hall, Bernadette Peters, Sondheim, etc., is fresh in stores.
Yes.
What's next on the burner for you? Can you talk about anything?
Well, there's nothing that I can really talk about yet. There's things that, I'm talking to Dory about her, you know, show with her, and talking about, there's a lot of things actually starting to cook on the burner, so we'll see what happens with them. There's nothing to really talk about. So I'm going to Australia in January. I'm singing at the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, had you been there before?
Never, no. It's supposed to be great acoustics, and I'm really excited about going there, going to this place far away, and it's very positive towards my coming there. So, and Joel Gray was just in Australia singing, and he had a great success.
Well, I want to thank you so much again. Like I told you in the beginning, that I wanted to do this for a long time. Thanks so much, Bernadette.
Thank you, it's great.
Well, I think we covered everything.
Someday, maybe, all my dreams will be repaid. Talking to you, sir. I don't need a lot. Tell me what I got. And I'll get to my the end of the sun. Someday, baby, if I still get long and dry, I've got to strike
Thanks for watching the show. Please email us at bbtv@aol.com. Until next time, this is Richard Ridge reminding you, you haven't really lived until you've seen it live. Good night.